Meseches Avos, Perek Aleph, Chapter 1, Mishnah Hey, the fifth Mishnah. In the previous video, I failed to mention that we're entering the period of what they call the zugos, the pairs. Definitely the two Yosis, Yossi ben Yochanan ish Yerushalayim and Yossi ben Yoezer ish Tzreda, were the beginning of the pairs. That they were the time whenever there wasn't one Torah luminary in a generation, there were two luminaries, and as you can imagine, they weren't necessarily identical in their worldview. So you begin to see differences in learning, differences in Torah philosophy. But for whatever the case, they were the luminaries of their generation. Okay, let us begin. Mishnah Hey. Yossi ben Yochanan, Yossi the son of Yochanan, ish Yerushalayim, the man of Yerushalayim, Omer, he says, V'yi beischa pasuach l'ravocha. It should be that your house is open, l'ravocha, wide. It should be wide open. V'yu anim b'nei beisacha, and the anim should be like members of your household. The poor people should be made to feel comfortable, and they should be like members of your household. Ve'al tarbe sicha im ha'isha, and you should not increase increase sicha, conversation, idle chatter, im ha'isha, with the woman. So there's a few different ways to read this. Admittedly, on the front end, this might not sound so nice to modern ears. Anytime we see something like that, we want to immediately jump onto it and make something out of it. So first of all, this wasn't written in our generation, so there is that. We have to consider that. But second of all, if we look at what Rabbi Yossi ben Yochanan is saying, if we're going to read this as some sort of slam or some sort of criticism of speaking to women as a whole, we see this as a bit of a non sequitur. It doesn't logically follow. He says over here that you should make your house wide open, and the poor people should feel comfortable. They should feel like members of your house. They shouldn't have to walk on eggshells around you. They should feel comfortable while they're in your home. And it says that you should not increase conversation or sicha, chatter with the wife. So there's a few possibilities. The first possibility is, which Isha are we talking about? Which woman, which wife are we talking about? We're talking about the poor man's wife who's sitting at your table. So in that case, then we say this is not a non sequitur, where there's a breakdown in the flow of the logic. Because one of the possibilities is that we have a general statement. You should make your house wide open, and the people that are there, even poor people, should feel like members of your household. So we have a general rule, and then we have a qualifier, a qualification. We qualify those remarks. But when it comes to women, married women, people who come to your house there, you should not increase the chatter, the idle talk with them. Yes, make everybody feel comfortable, but you should not be overly do so with the woman, the wife of the person sitting there. That as a result, that might create problems. That might create maybe too much of a casual relationship that might lead to problems down the road with the woman, or it might stir up some jealousy on the part of of her husband, who is a poor person who's a guest in your house. And we certainly don't want to do that. We don't want to create, in our trying to do kindness to others, we don't want to create problems in their homes. It says here they're poor, so obviously they are going through enough as is, so we shouldn't make the situation more emotional and difficult than it need be. Another possibility is that when it says ha'isha, and this is how the Chachamim are going to take this, when it says ha'isha, the wife, it's referring to the householder's wife, the lady of the house, the wife of the person who the host. We shouldn't increase speech too much with her. Well, that also to modern ears doesn't sound very nice. So it's not only modern ears. Two factors here. One is that it potentially doesn't sound nice, and B, that it seems to be a non sequitur unless you explain it, that we're talking about guests, and all of a sudden we're talking about not talking to the woman. That creates a problem that a lot of the commentators feel the need to explain, because certainly speaking to women is not forbidden. It can lead to trouble, but not necessarily. And we're encouraged in many ways to speak to our own wives. Also, again, the flow, it just doesn't make sense unless we explain it, unless we see this as some sort of qualifying remark. So we explained the one view that possibly this ha'isha is referring to the anim, the poor men who come there. Possibly, though, the Chazal take it as being the woman of the house, the wife of the host, ha'isha. So I looked around, I saw plenty of explanations. One that stood out to me as a potential is the explanation given in Avos the Rebbe Nosson. That Avos the Rebbe Nosson is the I mentioned it in the introduction video. It is the expansion of many of these statements that is included in some editions of the Talmud Bavli, the Babylonian Talmud, and it is not in the same order, and not all the statements in Pirkei Avos are there in Avos the Rebbe Nosson. We're in Perek Aleph here in the first Perek. That statement can be found where he talks about this statement of Rabbi Yossi. It can be found over in chapter 7 of Avos the Rebbe Nosson, towards the end, literally a paragraph, maybe 2 paragraphs before the beginning of chapter 8. So he says that when we're talking about talking to the wife of the host, shouldn't have idle chatter with his wife. And he gives an example, and I think it's certainly a human example of why that can lead to trouble with letting people feel at home in your house. He gives the example of, and certainly this is something that happens to all of us, and potentially this also can be, I think, said the other way. It just so happens that Rabbi Yossi was a man, so he was saying it from the direction of a man to a woman. But if a woman was saying this, I think the same advice would hold up. So there he gives the example of somebody, again it's talking in the example of a man, but it could go either way, of a man who goes to the synagogue for prayer, or he attends the Beis Medrash, the study house, to learn some Torah. And something happens, and he feels that the rabbi wasn't nice to him, or that one of his friends wasn't nice to him. They had cross words, or somebody was grumpy, or maybe he just looked at him the wrong way. So it says that this person should not come home and have idle chatter, childish talk. He should not come home and tell his wife, burden his wife with this information. He should not say that the rabbi was mean to me, or he did not give me proper respect. Or he should not say that so-and-so said this to me, or I said this to so-and-so, and then they replied such and such. He should not give that over, and he doesn't really explain why, but I infer from it that it's really unfair for us to burden our wives with this, our spouses, the people who love us the most and people who have sort of the inside scoop on us. We should not burden them unfairly with this information. And it really creates problems for peace in the community, in the home, at your table. For instance, if so-and-so was mean to me, I shouldn't go home and tell my wife that. If I, the next day, as it usually happens, the person might be nice to me again, or I might say, he might come to me and say, you know what, I was a jerk yesterday, I'm sorry. And it's even Steven, everybody, the whole thing is forgotten. Frequently, the human nature is we want to give over the bad, but we never say over the good. Chances are I would not run home and tell my wife, you know what, this person that said this mean thing to me yesterday, you know what, he's an okay guy. He said he was sorry, and he just was in a bad mood, and, and chances are we would not go home and say that. Frequently, we have more of an impetus to give over the bad and not give over the good. So as a result, I might be calm and still have warm feelings towards this person, and the upset might be long gone. But my wife, who again loves me probably more than I even realize, and has my back and knows my my true feelings, she might be harboring some bad feelings towards this person. And as a result, if I invite these people over to the table, there might be a problem with the casual tone in which Rabbi Yossi is talking about, that we should make the anim as members of our household. It might be that the woman might be short, or she might not want to put out a nice spread as much as she might have with anybody else. There might be issues, and as a result, the peace will not be, this sort of ideal of communal peace that we, as a community, try to reach. So much so that poor people can sit at the tables of more well-to-do people, and there's no shame. It is what it is. That ethic that Rabbi Yossi ben Yochanan is trying to push might not be possible if that's the case. So that would then explain how this can be a qualifier to his previous statement. And so we've explained it being possibly for the wife of the poor person, and we might explain it as possibly, like the rabbis take it, as being the wife of the host. Okay, so let's go further in the Mishnah. Be'ishto amru, concerning his wife. Amru, they are speaking, meaning the hosts. Kol v'chomer be'eshes chavero, all the more so with the wife of a chaver, a friend. We should not be casual with giving over this kind of idle chatter to the wife of a friend, because it creates problems, and maybe even more problems, because it really throws the Lashon Hara problem wide open. When we speak to our own wife, it probably still counts as Lashon Hara, but potentially, but it might not go any further. But if we are speaking more casually to our friends' wives, then it might, it will go gangbuster. Potentially, it will be talk around town, and it will create problems dialing the thing back. And again, it goes against that ethic of communal harmony that we're trying to push for. Now, this logic model, the Chavachomer, light and strict or heavy. In Latin, they call that an argument minori ad majus, from the minor statement, a light statement, all the more so to a heavier statement. We are making an inference from a lighter case to a more stringent case. So all the more so, we should not do it by somebody else's wife, because I think the harm is much greater there. for myriad reasons, but we're focusing on sort of the communal harmony aspect. As a rule, it's not good policy for men to be too casual with with women who are not our wife. Mechan amru chachamim, and from here the rabbis say, chacham the rabbis say, kol zman she'adam marbe sicha im ha'isha, all time that a man increases in sicha, in idle chatter with the wife, with the woman, Goram ra la'atzmo, he's creating bad for himself. He creates problems for himself. Potentially those problems, so the problems he could be creating for himself. And again, we're not talking about conversation. We're talking about sicha. We're talking about really just idle and a silly talk. We should, we should endeavor not to do that. Again, I think the same thing can be said for women to men. Women should not increase in idle chatter with men. So just because it's being stated in this direction, I don't see any reason why it can't be stated in the opposite direction. Because this can create bad for yourself, create bad issues. Ubotel midivret soira, and a person, when he does this, is batel from learning Torah. It's better instead of getting yourself mixed up in intrigues and fights and all these other things, better to focus on just learning Torah. Okay, Vasofo, and in the end, his end, Yarish Gehenim, he will inherit Gehenim. Gehenim is a little valley right outside Jerusalem. They used to worship Moloch there. It was a garbage pit. It was just a bad place. It's a mashal for, I guess you would call it hell. It's not the Christian hell, but it's just a bad place that's removed from sanctity, removed from God. Kavayachol. So Gehenna here is that. So a person in the end can really put himself far away from what God intends for him by opening the door to certain things. Okay, I hope that was well. I'm sorry I sort of wonked on too long, but I feel that this Mishnah is sort of unfairly singled out as somehow representing a view of the genders. Definitely there is gender is talked about here, but I don't know that it can be said to be some sort of philosophical statement about the intrinsic nature of a man versus a woman. I think it really is bound up in Rabbi Yossi's statement of trying to create some sort of a harmony in the community, and that he sees this as a potential something that would cause disunity, would cause problems in the community. And his advice is to avoid being too casual so that we can work towards getting things the way they ought to be and not the way they are. Okay, I hope that was good. I wish you the best. Kol tov, hatzlacha rabba. Keep learning. We'll see you with the next video. Thank you.